Hello and welcome to the big picture. The ongoing visit of Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh and UPA Chairperson Sonia Gandhi to Jammu and Kashmir to inaugurate a series of development projects, even as the militant violence against the security forces erupted a day before, has enormous significance. The troubled state, which has been struggling to pursue the development agenda with the help of the centre, finds itself fighting security battles periodically, thereby creating hurdles in the path of development. While development of the state on all fronts are very important, bringing peace to the valley is equally important. The state, which had witnessed relative peace for some time, witnessed the worst attack on Monday when 8 army personnel were killed in a brazen attack in Srinagar. With both the Prime Minister and the UPA chairperson pledging to fight terror and insurgent activity, the challenge has been accepted. However, many issues remain unresolved, even as the centre pledges more and more funds for the development of the state. Is the state in a position to use these funds in a time-bound manner and at the same time keep the militants at bay and progress on the development front? How important is peace for development? Whether the state is once again facing a revival of militancy are questions which need answers. We will discuss all this today with Professor Radha Kumar, Director, Mandela Center for Peace and Conflict Resolution at the Jamia Millia University and an interlocutor on Kashmir, Riyaz Punjabi, former Vice Chancellor, Kashmir University, Harsh Mander, social activist and former National Advisory Council member, Kapil, Air Vice Marshal retired and a defense analyst, and Pushp Saraf, a veteran journalist. Welcome to all of you. Let me go to Dr. Radha Kumar first. Dr. Radha Kumar, last year you people had gone and done a lot of work there and had come back. Now, and these development projects have been going on for quite some time now. And today, going by the way in which the number of series of projects which have been inaugurated, some very important ones like railways, roads and all that. But at the same time, this attack is a cause for serious concern, isn't it?
Yes, certainly it is. It's not the first time that an attack like this has taken place before the Prime Minister's visit.
Yes.
However, the numbers that have been killed are high. They have clearly been caught unaware. And there are serious questions attached to how it was possible to mount such an attack.
What?
There's also questions arising as to whether this is a harbinger of the future.
Exactly. Exactly. That is the biggest concern. How much does these kind of attacks, such brazen attacks right in the capital, how does it affect the development work, the development agenda in fact?
See, I would say first we should look at a more significant aspect of it is the impact it has on the psychology of the people.
Exactly.
They have been struggling with 25 years of violence. And there was a hope that the state was emerging out of that violence. So every such attack causes a sense of despondency and gloom. Alongside, I must confess, a sense of frustration that some of the core political issues are yet to be addressed.
Exactly. See, that is the major thing. Professor Punjabi, you think these core political issues which Radha Kumar talks about, are they on the table at all in the recent past? Now also in this visit also, before this visit, we have read, people, analysts writing about autonomy and things like that. But there are certain other core political issues. Have they been addressed or are they being addressed?
See, first of all, there is no clarity about these core issues. So what are the core issues? And between whom are these core issues? We have a neighboring country, Pakistan, which claims that negotiations and talks should be held with them.
Right.
They are also talking about core issues. Then we have the ruling dispensation. Ruling dispensation also is talking about core issues. Then we have opposition. They are also talking about core issues. So I would plead with all my humility that let there be some consensus on these core issues. That is number one. Number two, you have been talking about developmental issues.
Yes.
Well, many projects which were announced, and we hear from newspapers and media that they have taken off or something is happening on that score. What I would feel that common people want to know, where are they and how are they going about? What is the transparency of these projects? Where are they lying towards? What direction are they taking? So, as far as common people are concerned, they would like to know the speed of these developmental projects. They will also know, they will also want to have some
militancy, the kind of security situation which prevails there obviously are an impediment in for the development projects also.
Now what is happening for quite some time now, the level of militancy has gone down.
Gone down.
So there will be such kind of, interruptions. Very unfortunate.
You call them interruptions?
I would say they're interruptions. See, common man, common people, they're yearning for moving ahead towards peace, towards development, and to live a peaceful life. That yearning is there. And we should be prepared that howsoever tough security or whatever you do, but these kind of things would happen. And also, let us not, if you're talking about big picture, let's not ignore what's happening in the region itself. In Afghanistan, there's a major development.
We will come to that, how that is affecting this. But I just want to go back to the point which you made. I want to go back to Professor Radha Kumar, since they gave a report and all. Professor Radha Kumar, Professor Riyaz talks about what are the core issues. Is there a clarity on what the core issues are?
Well, I would say there is sufficient clarity to begin the discussion. As far as Pakistan is concerned, as you know, they are in control of a certain territory of the state, and therefore there is no doubt at all that has to be discussed with Pakistan, and the India-Pakistan track is very important.
Right.
We have had quite important peace moves in the past between India and Pakistan, and it remains to be seen whether the new government of Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif can revive some of those.
Right.
Secondly, there is the question of Article 370 and autonomy and the relationship of the state to India.
Right.
Or rather, the special status that was accorded to India. What is the basis of that? As you notice, 370 is still called a temporary provision after 60 years. In fact, this is the 60th anniversary of 370 this year. And it would be an appropriate time to discuss whether you wish to keep it as temporary or you wish to move on.
Okay.
I would just like to just briefly.
Then there is the whole question of the insurgency, whether the chapter of violence is closed, not closed. Army reforms, security reforms, those are also some, they are security issues, but they have a political strategic implication.
Absolutely. Yes, very quickly.
Briefly about
and alongside with them come human rights and development and all the rest.
Professor Riyaz wants to, yes.
See, I want to make it clear, juridically, in the eyes of law, even though there is the word temporary used for Article 370, it has acquired a permanence,
almost
and it cannot be touched. Let us be clear about it, and let us not make politics out of it.
De facto permanent status, yes, Mr. Kak. You think that these core issues, which both of them are talking about, will be able to be handled now in this present atmosphere, which prevails in Kashmir?
No, I think in this situation there are many challenges. Starting from what Professor Riyaz Punjabi said, that 370 cannot be removed. But what Radha rightly said is the 60th anniversary of 370, and what Mr. Advani said in commemoration of the Shyama Prasad Mukherjee death in Kashmir, that we need to remove it.
Absolutely.
So we have to look at developing a consensus at the central level to look at the center-Kashmir dialogue at one track and the Kashmir, India-Pakistan dialogue. When you in this factor in, and this is where the big picture is extremely important, I mean, we are not trying to see Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's and Sonia Gandhi's visit to Kashmir in the geostrategic construct. Look at what's being done. Replication of the Chinese strategy. Borders, people, infrastructure, connectivities, economic linkages, regional. Can you imagine what this does? As a child, I grew up in Kashmir. It was an enormity to drive in a car from Srinagar to Jammu. It took you for the whole day.
Absolutely.
You now do it in 4 hours or 5 hours. So these are big ticket stuff.
Absolutely.
The road, Mughal Road, the Banihal Road with this tunneling.
Right.
You're looking at a Leh to Shimla.
Yes. You're
You're looking at a Uri Haji Pir to Gulmarg. I mean, there are amazing connectivities developing. This has a lot to do with psychological aspects of the Kashmiris, one. Secondly, the linkages between the regions. That's one factor. The second point, I think the crucial point here is, as Umar Abdullah said 4 years ago, and I think he's repeated once again by putting this autonomy package.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the center will have to look at some sensitive mechanisms to address the alienation in Kashmir. We also noticed that from 9th of February, when Afzal Guru was, the hanging took place in Delhi, 19 security people have lost their lives.
Right.
Equivalent period, it hasn't happened over the last 5 years.
Right.
So that's also an issue.
Yes.
It's not so much the hanging, but Girish, it is the manner in which the family wasn't informed.
Exactly.
You know, these are very sensitive issues for the Kashmiris. Lastly, I think this is more important, that when you look at the big ticket, you also need to look at the 5 working groups which were set up. One of them was led by Mr. Hamid Ansari,
Right.
thinking Vice President of India. The group recommendations are still, some of these are still gathering dust. It said autonomy. Where are we on autonomy? It said rehabilitation of the youth. Where are we? It said rehabilitation of the Kashmiri Pandits. Where are we? I mean, it's all moving so gingerly. The speed is so slow that the aspirations of the people are not being met through the speed of delivery of those aspirations.
Right.
I think we need to take that into account.
Harsh Mander. Harsh Mander, can you hear me? Harsh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Harsh, the issue is...
I can hear you, Girish.
Yes, Harsh, the issue is that, you know, several issues have been raised. Admiral Kapil Kag, Air Marshal, Kapil Kag says that, you know, the kind of development which has happened, you know, we can't overlook that. It also reflects the aspirations of the people and things like that. But how far this kind of development agenda can be pursued in the kind of atmosphere which prevails now?
You know, I was listening to people before me, you know, from the perspective of ordinary people in Kashmir, the many times that I visited and spoken to them. All of this is important, but, you know, we must recognize that the people of Kashmir are undergoing enormous suffering in the cycles of violence that an entire generation of young people has grown up in. On the one hand, there are, you know, not grand development aspirations, but the everyday aspiration of getting your ration card, getting an old age pension. I've been to many villages where nobody is getting old age pensions. You have about 50,000 women over the years estimated to have got widowed or half widows. What about their, you know, protection and future? You have an equal number of, you know, at least an equal number of single parent or orphan children by the violence, all sides. You know, I don't care whether it was, you know, violence from the militants, from the state, from crossfire, from renegades, but this has left a whole sort of a reservoir of human suffering which is not being addressed, and I think that's one part. But on the other hand, it's also the suffering related to failures of justice and human rights. And, you know, just last week I was invited to be part of a delegation to villages Kunan and Pushpara in Kupwara, which actually is a forgotten site of perhaps the worst incidents of the sexual violence that the country has seen, where something between 50 to 100 women were raped by security forces in one night. And it might be 22 years or since, but when we went there, we were amazed at how the suffering seemed so immediate, as if it had happened to them yesterday, and the absence of closure. And the people have actually been fighting the case. Right in 2004, the people of the village finally collected money and they went to the State Human Rights Commission. 2011, they got an order for the case to be reopened. State government still didn't reopen the case. They went to the High Court. So there is, so I think that the development concerns of the ordinary people, the suffering related with the survivors of violence, and issues of human rights and justice, to me, are the big agendas.
Okay. Pushp, this is quite overwhelming actually, that there are, as Harsh was pointing out, there are these micro concerns at micro level. There are these huge concerns, a small problem which we sitting in Delhi will think these are all small problems, but there are these problems which have not been addressed properly, and then there are these macro problems of problem with Pakistan, how to deal with it and things like that. Where do we stand in all these things?
I will not say that the focus has shifted from what has been said, our core issues or issues confronting the people or affecting the people. But I definitely notice that on the ground level, there is an urge for development. People do want development, and two things establish this thing. One, that a couple of years ago, when some militants killed tourists, the entire trade and industry rose in one voice and protested against it.
Right.
Secondly, if you see the number of young persons appearing for competitive examinations has gone up significantly.
Right.
So I will not say the core issues are not there. What has been said as core issues, which again is a subject of debate. For instance, Kunal Pojpura has been mentioned now. It remains a cause of concern if it turns out that what was said more than two decades ago was untrue. I will just tell you that the Press Council of India at that time had instituted a committee which included a man of top integrity, B.G. Varghese, as its member, and which investigated that incident at that time and found nothing. And suddenly this issue has come up again, and if it unfolds as Mr. Mander says, of course it will be, and if the earlier findings turn out to be wrong, then it will certainly be a cause of concern.
We have seen this kind of things happening periodically in Kashmir, that
But so far as development
the State Human Rights Commission, has found a prima facie case.
Yeah, it has taken cognizance of it now. But that
nobody can undermine these issues, and which keeps cropping up. It has to be tackled. But the issue is that the larger issue, the larger core issues, how are they being tackled? Is the state government and the center in tune with what they need to be done? These are the core issues. But before that, I think we need to go into a very small break. We'll come back and continue this discussion. Please keep watching. Welcome back. We are looking at the developments in Kashmir in the context of the visit of Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and UPA Chairperson Sonia Gandhi. Professor Radha Kumar, Kapil Kak was talking about creating sensitive mechanisms. And this has been discussed any number of times, creating mechanisms. Probably one of your team which went there to look at this, and talk to the people and came out with the report was also some sort of a mechanism which was sensitive enough to understand what was happening. But at the end of the day, what kind of mechanisms will work?
That's a really huge question to answer. It's fairly obvious that governance is a top priority in Jammu and Kashmir, and all the panelists have more or less made that clear with the references and examples they've given. And surely one mechanism, not particularly sensitive and certainly not insensitive, was to get the panchayats up and running, and that they could do at least local governance issues. Right. But those elections have not happened yet.
Yes.
Despite the first round being a year and a half, close to 2 years ago. So there are governance issues that need to be dealt with. They are not easy to deal with because this has been a state that has been paralyzed by conflict for more than 20 years. So to come back and revive the institutions of governance could take some time. You know, grievance, for example, grievance and redressal mechanisms, especially with the security forces, would be very helpful. I believe the army has set up some. And now if that model can be replicated across the state, that would help. We should bear in mind that right now we are talking about the valley. There is Jammu, there is Ladakh.
Absolutely.
When we talk big picture, we have to look at all three regions.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We talk valley because of the militancy impact. Now, another point I think that needs to be made is that symbolism, political symbolism is very important. And this particular visit, I see that while development has been given a core focus, you also have symbolism and a recognition of Kashmiri culture and Kashmiriyat through the release of the stamp of the poet Mehjur, which is very important indeed. Yes. Now, more of that symbolism would be very helpful. More governance and then the political.
Okay, Professor Punjabi, yeah, you know, these kind of governance issues and things like that we have been discussing. Now, a new government has come in Pakistan. You think that that has raised some hopes, but at the same time you see this kind of attacks and, you know, the militant groups claiming responsibility for these kind of things. How do you see the two things?
First of all, I'm tempted to say something about our internal situation.
Yes.
See, let us be clear. We have to prioritize our policies towards Kashmir. There are three tracks. One is definitely political, another is developmental, and third is human rights.
But all three are interlinked.
All three are interlinked. But my worry is, as a professor, that I am more concerned about our youth. See, you should see the frustration of the youth, educated, unemployed, are those who are in the institutions.
And also those who are aspiring for education.
Yeah, and I don't see any policy. Howsoever politicians may say, but I can prove that there is no policy at all.
Okay.
And just
quickly,
we are running out of time. Because you are talking about the developments across. Now there is a cliche that there are two governments there, visible and invisible. So our analysis would depend on what is the visible government thinking and doing and what is the invisible government thinking and doing.
Okay, yes.
The invisible government, to my mind, is going to link Kashmir with Kabul. So there is a absolute clarity in their minds on this, and the violence
there are already
in Kashmir is not.
There are already reports of analysts saying that you know, as US moves out of Afghanistan, the focus of these people will come back towards Kashmir.
But I think perhaps what is happening is we also get into a frenzy about, in fact, in many ways, a hysteria about the threats that are.
Yes.
I don't think we're going to have all the, the problems from Afghanistan transferring to Kashmir. That needs to be assessed. But far more important, I think, is what Riyaz said just a while ago. You know, the development involves giving jobs to 70,000 youth. There are 700,000 youth who are unemployed.
Right.
That's one. Secondly, there is a certain trend of radicalization which we need to worry about.
Right.
Mehjur, which Radha talked about. Mehjur is being de-Mehjured in the minds of the youth in Kashmir. We have to watch. Thirdly, much more importantly, is not just a question of jobs. We have to look at whether there will be an urge to increase the footprint of the security forces once again because some attacks are taking place.
That is exactly.
That must not happen.
That must not happen.
Must not happen because that is what I meant by sensitive mechanism. I also believe
this,
that armed
so
forces...
overreaction to this kind of thing should not happen.
Because you have created a certain... mind
quickly.
space.
I think we have to correct our
this attack yesterday, if it leads to overreaction and if it leads to more, but there are also concerns expressed that this may just be the beginning of a second round of, jihad happening in this.
I am sure Professor Riyaz and Kak Sahab know the ground situation as well as anybody can know. And I'm sure these attacks will happen, and nobody can deny it. These will happen often and for quite some time till these people are taken care of. But what I see now is that there is an overwhelming urge on the part of people to get out of it.
Right.
And they want development, and they want to get out of the mess in which they are. And I think there won't be any overreaction because of these incidents, which are no doubt very serious, but which I think they will be, the government will be in a position to take proper
to assess it in the right context.
There is also two very critical elements here. Kashmir generally is seen as problem of the center, and if centreness is not performing, then the state must perform.
Yes.
But what about the civil society in Kashmir? Why do you have such high female feticide?
Yes.
Why do you have highest suicide rate in India as in Jammu and Kashmir?
Right.
I mean, this is part of the process.
And Girish, civil society in the state is moving in the right direction.
Okay, Harsh, do you agree with that very quickly? You think the civil society should be able to provide that kind of a momentum to see that the development agenda takes importance and in the context?
No, it has a really important role, but I think that we must recognize that ultimately the battle in Jammu and Kashmir is a battle of hearts and minds. We must heal the suffering, we must ensure justice, we must reduce the presence of the military, we need to think about things like removal of AFSPA. We need to show restraint, we need to show compassion. I think these are the kinds of responses in the long run. Let us forget about larger geopolitical issues. They are citizens of our country. A whole generation, young people very rightly emphasized, have suffered so much. Let them see hope, and they can see hope only when there is justice and there is compassion.
Okay, Harsha, on that note, we have to end. We completely run out of time, but I think what you said is very important. Hope and sensitivity to the issue, to see people in Jammu and Kashmir as people who are looking at, who have their own aspirations, and not just as a geopolitical issue, which you said. Thanks to all my guests, Professor Radha Kumar, Professor Riyaz Punjabi, Harsh Mander, Kapil Kak, and Pushp Saraf. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue on the big picture, same time tomorrow.